In this video, I'm going to give you 25 things that you can do right away to write better songs. The first step to writing better songs is to embrace simplicity. Apparently, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. But in teaching thousands of people to write songs, I've learned that it's just the best approach to take. By keeping things simple, it means anyone can write a song. And by completing songs, you then gain experience and become a better songwriter. So what does keeping things simple look like? It means using simple chord progressions. Don't use complex chords. This forces you to think more about the placement and sound of the few chords that you use. It also makes things easier for new musicians. This then lends itself to creating simple melodies. Melodies only need a few notes, with some rhythmic variation, so don't overthink things. Then if you write lyrics, consider a single, simple emotion to base your song around. Master simplicity, and you'll be a songwriting machine. The second thing to be a better songwriter is to learn cover songs. The first thing a lot of eager new musicians will do is learn cover songs. Many a beginner guitarist has learnt 3 or 4 simple open chords and gone to town with their favourite songs. This is a great way to maintain motivation when learning an instrument, and also an easy way to impress your friends. But it also provides a priceless insight into the way that songs work. Without thinking about it, you are absorbing the work of some of the great songwriters. You learn about chord progressions, melodies and lyrics, and then you see how these work together in a wider song structure, providing blueprints that you can use in your own music. If you don't play an instrument, then don't panic. You can still get in on the action. There's a website called Hook Theory Database, which gives you the chord and melody information for thousands of songs. Anyone can follow along. You don't need to be able to read music. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. On to the third idea, and this follows on from learning cover songs. Take a song that you know and rearrange it. This can mean playing it on a different instrument, performing it in a different style, or even changing the tempo or time signature. Me and my songwriting friend used to do this when we were struggling for fresh ideas, which on one occasion ended up with an interesting acoustic version of Hounds of Love by Kate Bush. Because the song is already written and familiar to people, having a go at rearranging it uses a different element of creativity. It's not about what you are playing, but how you are playing it. This is a great skill to develop, as you can then use it in your own original songwriting. The fourth thing is to find a songwriting partner. As I said in the last example, I often write songs with a good friend of mine. We each have different strengths, but the end result is always something that we wouldn't have created on our own. I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to songwriting, but you really can't recreate the effect of 2 people working on a song together. This is particularly useful if you get stuck and you want to brainstorm ways to finish a song. Songwriting partnerships are all over popular music. Often you'll find one person specialising in one part of the process, like Elton John and Bernie Taupin. See if you have a friend who can complement your songwriting style. Otherwise, you can put out an advert locally to try and find someone. You can also do this online now, collaborating across the world to improve your songwriting. The fifth idea is to get into a songwriting schedule. The problem many new songwriters have is they only write when they're inspired. This means that most of the time, they aren't working on their songs. And like any craft, songwriting is something that only improves with practice. And in order to practice, you need to set aside a regular time to write songs. Most of us are busy, so this doesn't have to be a lot of time. If you can only schedule an hour a week, then start with that. But the more you do this, the better you'll get at writing songs. And then you become more efficient and can get more done in the limited time that you have. So get out your calendar and write more songs. The sixth thing to improve your songwriting might be an obvious one, particularly if you've watched this channel before. It's to learn basic music theory. Many people write songs without any theory knowledge. Some people even swear that you write better songs if you don't know any theory. Obviously, I don't agree with this extreme approach. I think even a little bit of basic music theory knowledge is a powerful thing for any songwriter. Understanding where chords come from, their relationships to scales, and how keys are formed can unlock a songwriter. Then you can quickly understand what notes to use in melodies, riffs and solos. It also opens you up to learn more complex ideas, like changing key, modal interchange and beyond. Whilst not everyone is a music theory nerd like me, having a working knowledge of the basics will improve your songwriting and allow you to communicate with other musicians more easily. Up next is an idea that at first seems like what we discussed earlier. Rewrite one of your favourite songs. But unlike the idea of rearranging a song, what you want to do here is to use the song more like a blueprint. This takes a lot of the initial heavy lifting out of your hands. Like what key to use, what tempo and what time signature. First you want to look at the layout of the song. What sections does the song have and how long do they last? Do you enjoy the song's length or would you shorten or lengthen any parts? Then it's time to get some musical inspiration. The big thing is the chord progressions. And the beauty of chord progressions is they can't be copyrighted. So you can go to town with this. What chords are used and how often do they change? If you like a section, then take it for your own use. Then once you've picked the chords from the song carcass, it's time to look at the melodic ideas. Here you need to be more careful. Melodies can be copyrighted, so you can't just lift them directly from a song. If you want to focus on one thing here, I'd recommend the rhythmic part of the melodies. Rhythm is really important and often underappreciated in tunes. Even a static one-note melody can be transformed with an interesting rhythm. Look to this idea of songwriting theft whenever you find it hard to write a song. In at number 8 is a turbocharged example of the songwriting schedule concept. Write every day. Even if you just write a chord progression or a couple of lines of lyrics, consistently writing will improve your craft over time. The discipline of doing this every day will compound really quickly, and you'll become a better songwriter and also generate a large amount of finished songs. You can then come back to your body of old work and rewrite and revise, making the process quicker and easier. I personally believe that just 10 minutes songwriting per day will have a greater benefit to you than 1 hour per week, because it keeps your brain working creatively every day, getting you into a permanent songwriting flow. The next idea can work with the previous idea to turbocharge your songwriting skills. Force yourself to finish a song quickly and don't worry about the quality. This might be hard to do if you only have 10 minutes a day, but if you try and finish a song in a short amount of time, then it makes you go through all of the parts of the songwriting process. When you're new to songwriting, I believe this quantity over quality approach is the best one to take. This is particularly useful if you struggle with or put off a particular part of songwriting. For example, many songwriters don't enjoy writing lyrics, and this approach will force you to complete some lyrics. So silence the perfectionist within, and you will quickly improve your songwriting skills. The 10th idea to improve your songwriting is to write a song on one instrument and then try and rewrite it on a different one. When you write a song with an instrument, how you play, your skill level, and the nature of that instrument will influence the song. Without thinking about it, you will be defaulting to tried and tested riffs, chord progressions, or melodic ideas. If you make yourself work on a different instrument, then it flips the way you think about music to fit that instrument. Now, if you can only play one instrument, or maybe no instrument, then don't panic. You can achieve the same thing by writing away from your instrument with simple pen and paper or on the computer, and then moving back to the instrument. Or if you produce electronic music just using software, then you write the old school way, or try out a different software package to get a similar effect. In at number 11 is to use technology creatively. It's never been easier to write and record music. The barrier to entry is so low with music creation that it can open up all sorts of new creative ideas. To start with this, I just recommend using multi-track software to build up ideas. Create layers of ideas and play around with them in order to see how the different tracks interact with each other. This can quickly lead to a song being written, as you only need a chord track and a melody track. If you play guitar, also consider using a loop pedal to try out a similar thing. The 12th thing to improve your songwriting is to write a song in a different order. For most people, I recommend writing the chords first when learning to write songs. But what if you wrote the melody first? Or had a go at those dreaded lyrics to begin with? By tackling a different song part to begin, it can transform how you approach your songs and unlock new ideas. Unlucky for some at 13, it's the idea that starting with a riff or groove. So much of rock music is built upon riffs, many of which started out in simple jam sessions. Because of their repetitive nature, once you have a riff, then you have the core element of a song written. Then it's a simple process of repeating the riff in different ways, and maybe writing one or two additional parts that complement the riff. This is great fun for the guitarists out there, and once you see it, you'll hear this approach all over music. At number 14 is the idea of rewriting and revising. One thing many new songwriters do is to write a song and then never come back to it. But songs are living, breathing things. They don't have to be frozen in time. If you have a bank of quickly written songs, as suggested earlier, then you've got plenty of opportunities to pick out an existing song and rewrite it. Have a listen back and think about how you might change things. Would you use different chords, or completely change the structure of the song? Periodically coming back to your older songs will always give you new insight as you develop as a songwriter. The next thing to write better songs is to focus on rhythm. This might be the most important thing on this list, as it's often the most overlooked aspect of good songwriting. Rhythm is the driving force behind most music, and its impact cannot be understated. Experiment with how often you change chords and how the notes in your melodies feel. Could you change the rhythm to transform the vibe of this song? This is also a great opportunity to steal. Look to your favourite songs and see if you can take rhythmic ideas to use in your own. This is the best sort of theft. Number 16 is to listen to a wide range of music. Music has always been about evolution, building on what came before. By bringing in a range of influences to your own music, you're more likely to innovate and find something fresh that you can bring to a new audience. Not only is this great for your songwriting, but being able to listen critically to different genres of music will open you up to new worlds of sound and emotion. Number 17 leads on from the last idea. Experiment with different genres. Stepping outside of your comfort zone and trying new genres can inspire fresh melodies, rhythms, and lyrical ideas. And if you've been listening to a wide range of music, then this will come naturally to you. You can start to highlight what elements become critical to certain genres and exploit this in future songs to bring surprise and colour to your music. At number 18, it's the idea of playing with song structures. Again, if you listen to a range of music, then you'll encounter all sorts of different song structures. This can help you to break out of the standard verse, chorus, bridge type layouts. Whilst there's nothing wrong with this, many artists use one structure for their whole career. As you develop your songwriting skills, it can be good to widen the structures that you work with. Number 19 is to use unexpected chord progressions. If you always play widely used progressions like 1, 5, 6, 4 in major keys, then you'll have a harder job making your song stand out. Using something a bit surprising can elevate your song and make it more memorable. If you have a wide influence of music, you can draw on this to get ideas, or experiment with lesser used chords like diminished chords to create unique emotional landscapes in your songs. I have a huge amount of chord progression videos on this channel if you want some inspiration. The 20th thing to help your songwriting is to write in unusual time signatures. The vast majority of popular music is written in 4/4 time. This is what our Western ears are most familiar with, and there's nothing wrong with this. But if you want something to quickly make your song stand out from the crowd, then try out a different time signature. Challenge yourself by composing in 5/4, 7/8, or some other non-standard time signature, and not only will it test your songwriting skills, it will expose you to new rhythms. And like all songwriting, if it ends up being a complete failure, then just move on to the next song. The 21st tip is to write in a new environment. We are all creatures of habit, whether it's playing an instrument or songwriting. We often default to our own tried and tested patterns. This can lead to things becoming stale. One way to shake out of this is to write somewhere different. The simple idea of changing your physical surroundings can stimulate fresh ideas and perspectives. You could go to a cafe, to a bar, or to the library to write. Or if the weather's nice, go to the park or your garden. Even just changing the room you write in can have a difference. Something simple like looking out of a different window can stimulate new ideas and thinking. Next up is the idea of contrast. Using contrast in your songs is something that is powerful and also an underused part of writing songs. Contrast between verses and choruses can add drama and keep the song dynamic and interesting. You can do this by having one section being played quietly and another more loudly, or have a change in tempo to highlight the difference. Dynamics, which is the difference between loud and quiet parts, is something that you don't see so much now, but it's an easy way for your songs to stand out. Number 23 is something I'm a big fan of. Use constraints in your song. If you limit yourself to only use a specific sets of chords or notes in your songs, then it forces you to think more creatively about how to use them. Setting some boundaries can also make for simpler songwriting, which is particularly useful as a beginner. Other ideas for constraints can be only giving yourself a limited amount of time to write a song, using a single chord or a single word for inspiration. Fence yourself in and see what happens. The next idea is a constraint in a way. Write a song in one sitting. If you challenge yourself to complete an entire song in a single focused session, then it forces you to finish all of the parts of the songwriting process. And as I've discovered throughout this video, finishing more songs means that you will more quickly become a better songwriter. And number 25 is an overarching idea behind all of these tips. Practice patience. Great songs don't always happen overnight. Be patient with yourself and your process. Let ideas evolve naturally without forcing them. These tips can help spark new creativity and develop your songwriting skills over time. Writing songs is difficult, but so rewarding. In order to make it easier, I turn to some really helpful apps. Watch the video on screen now and I'll reveal my top 4 songwriting apps that will transform your songs.